Welcome to episode 4 of the Bentonville Beacon Podcast. I'm your host, James Bell, and this first season of the podcast is all about Bentonville's outdoor recreation industry. Today we have in the guest seat Danny Collins from 37 North Expeditions. Danny, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, awesome.
So, Danny, let's start off by how about you tell us about your love for the outdoors and really where did that come from?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a loaded question. I'm sure we'll get into more of that. But to start, I grew up here in the Ozarks. I grew up in a little tiny town just north of the border in Missouri, in southwest Missouri, and had a very adventurous family that I had the pleasure of and honestly the opportunity to get to see a lot of these amazing places we have. There wasn't many summer weekends I wasn't on a river, not many fall that I wasn't on a hiking trail. So that's probably where it mostly comes from. It goes back a long time.
Awesome. I don't think I've told you this before, but my dad grew up in north central Arkansas, just a few miles from the Buffalo River. So I spent a lot of my childhood on the Buffalo River.
There's worse places to be around as a child, isn't there? Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So tell us about 37 North Expeditions.
Yeah. So 37 North was founded in 2018. It's crazy to say, almost 4 years ago now. We are, I guess if we had to check a box, we would be a full service guiding company, but what we like to really say is we curate exceptional outdoor experiences, right? So, I'm sure we can talk a little bit more about how it all got started in a second, but really our very simple goal and aspirations is to get as many people outside as humanly possible and to make it really simple and convenient to do so. And really kind of a byproduct of that is help more people fall in love with our beautiful natural landscapes and therefore want to protect it.
Wonderful. So how did you get involved in guiding?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I grew up around here and really, to be honest, probably took for granted how amazing these places are that we have around here. I graduated, I played soccer, got my master's in architecture, my MBA from Drury University in Springfield, Missouri. And then, like a lot of people that age, just get me to a big city and let me follow that, what I think is a dream and a passion of working for a real big, large company. But so I worked for corporate architecture in Manhattan for about 4 years after that. And funny enough, that's really where my career in the outdoor recreation guiding experience started. Is I started on the weekends, just kind of a hobby, found a company to start guiding for, and did a lot of day trips upstate New York, did some weekend stuff to the Whites and Adirondacks. And then as I got more and more into it, I got the chance to do some Kilimanjaro summits as a guide, some Machu Picchu treks, and some of those bigger, kind of high summit type of explorations. And I did that for about 3 years on the side. And then finally one day woke up and realized, wow, I'm tired of just being a side hobby and really wanted to find a way to make it a career. And without getting into the exact details of how that all came to be, I actually landed a job. I worked for National Geographic. I moved down to South America, just outside of Quito, Ecuador, and was the expedition manager at one of their unique lodges of the world for some time. And so that was kind of, it happened fast. It was amazing. And it was really honestly, one day I just woke up and like, I love this. Why am I doing this just as a side gig instead of an actual career path? And found a way to make it my job. Yeah.
That's amazing. Do what you love. I love it. Yeah. Speaking of which, I think you found love in Ecuador or outside Ecuador as well, didn't you?
Yeah, my wife is Ecuadorian. We actually, it's wild enough. We actually met here in the States. I don't know how she made her way to the Ozarks. That's not a lot of them are here, that's for sure. But yeah, my wife is Ecuadorian, and so we still have a very strong connection to Ecuador even to this day.
Wonderful. So how did you make it back here to Arkansas?
Yeah, that's a little bit more of probably not the highlight of the story, but in 2017, my dad was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, and he was young. He was only 55 years old, and so I was living down there. Like I said, really, honestly, I don't think we would have ever left. My wife was close with her for her family. I was working really passionately, a dream job for National Geographic there. Loved everything about that experience, but just felt the need to come back to be with my dad, and then probably more importantly, even with my mom for that process, given the diagnosis and stuff. And so moved back in kind of the middle of 2017. And, it's weird to say, but I think when I moved back, especially given that kind of like, I think the best way to put it, a little bit of a depressing situation to come back to, nature really, really did become kind of our getaway. Like we just kind of started to find, we were, every chance we got, we would go out and try to find a new hiking trail and find a new exploration area. And that's really what was just like, wow, this is a lot better than I remember it, I think, as my high school and college years that I kind of took it for granted. And, really that was the inspiration for 37 North starting, was this idea that there's so many of us that in this grew up in this community that haven't been to these places you just mentioned earlier, like that haven't seen a place like Ponca, Arkansas, and haven't seen these beautiful places that we have right in our own back door. So that was the inception of the idea, was how do we get more people to love our own backyard, more residents to want to, more community members to want to get out a little bit further than your parks and your greenways. And then also, how can we play a role in trying to get more people that are kind of a regional tourism or even national tourism to understand that this is a place not to miss for ecotourism. Really, there's nothing like us between the Appalachians and the Rockies, right? And so that was the early inceptions of that bred the idea for our organization. Really stemmed from just our own desire to get deeper into the Ozarks.
Fantastic. So you mentioned earlier that your business helps people get into the outdoors and get to know this place, but who are your customers?
Yeah. I think that's something that's still somewhat evolving always. We're still a young company, right? So we're evolving, but also adding to what you might say, like our portfolio, I guess you could say. But I would say that there's two relatively stronger stereotypes, and it's kind of at the ends of both spectrums, right? So we play, truly one of the very first things we ever wrote down to conceive of an idea was outdoors for all. And to that means a big part of that is beginner activities. We saw a need for, again, this is 4 years ago almost. This world of outdoor recreation was very different 4 years ago. It's crazy how much things have changed. Right now we hear guiding service and, biking services and all these kind of things, and it just seems very common to us. But there was nothing like us 4 years ago. We really were that tip of the spear. And so what I'm getting at is that we saw a need for that, like a true need to help people get deeper into the outdoors. So beginner-friendly experiences is a really, really strong part of what we care about, and something we're trying to build every experience for. We also really do focus on, I'll put it this way, those that have not been classified as kind of one of our historic outdoors men. And by that, I'll just bluntly say it. The Ozarks outdoors was made for white men that want to hunt and fish, right? That is what we are founded upon, and I'm not critiquing that at all, as much as just saying we saw a need to help other demographics that don't hit that feel comfortable and confident in the outdoors. So, even to this day, over 80% of our clients are female. Over 80% of our guides are female as well, which is incredible to us. So that's kind of on that early, the kind of like introduction into the outdoors spectrum. Find your passion. Everything's solved for you. But then there's really that other end of the spectrum, is that when I say we curate exceptional outdoor experiences, that is focusing on those crazy logistics you might not be able to pull off, or maybe more importantly, don't want to try to pull off on your own, right? So yeah, we all can go on a gravel ride, but what would you have to do to get it to end at a put-in to a kayak, and then our boats go 3 or 4 miles down the river, and then you just get straight into our car and we go to stop at a brewery on the way back home? The logistics for that, for you to pull off on your own, are in some ways about unmanageable, right? And so that's where we curate these exceptional experiences. We have some where we'll end with, live music and absolute private chef type of catering to we'll have astronomy viewing that's at the end of the hike. And so really that's the other end of the spectrum. It's not as much of a need-based guiding service. We really don't claim ourselves to be as much focused on need-based as much as just, again, making it simple so you do it more, right?
Yeah, I love that. So outdoors for all and really making it an experience. And I'm hearing in here making the outdoors accessible to people, accessible to people who have never really spent time outdoors, or to everybody that's not a white man growing up hunting and fishing in the Ozarks, which I think is absolutely amazing, and is also one of those sort of core values of Bentonville. So I really love that that's a big part of your business. I think one of the experiences you didn't mention, and I've wondered about and haven't tried out yet, is hiking with goats. Can you tell us about that?
Man, everything with goats is popular, isn't it? That is honestly, I think, to talk a little bit more broader about that segment of our company, is that we, again, are just trying to create those incredibly unique things. To us, that's in a way maybe the hook, right? Is that if we get you outdoors and you see how beautiful this place is, and I know it sounds like a really odd trickle-down effect, but maybe you want to throw that wrapper out your car window the next time that you think about it, right? So if we can get more people to fall, that's my dedication to conservation, is the more people I can get to fall in love with these places. And so by that, I mean these really fun, unique experiences. That could be the hook that, okay, maybe a hike's not for me. Maybe a paddle's not for me, but if I can go do something with a unique experience like goat hiking, or a unique experience like a horseback to a winery, or these kind of really unique pairings and fun social activities, well, that's a potential hook. But another aspect to that specific goat hike, we literally have goats that are with us on the hike that are carrying some of its stuff if you want. It's just a very fun, unique experience. But another aspect to that one too is that we actually partner with we don't own our own goats. We partner with a nonprofit that was founded for PTSD groups. And so to kind of really go out with these different victims that either can't carry their own stuff or have some sort of, disability or challenge, that this group is assisting them and creating a community for them. And we take that, and then all the proceeds go to that nonprofit group for those trips. Right. So that's kind of that community focused way too. So it's a hook, it's a unique experience, but it's also finding ways. We partner with an incredible amount of nonprofits or outside groups outside of just our organization to, to create these very unique aspects and different ways to get outdoors.
That's pretty neat. I'm thinking about, as you said that, growing up, I told you I spent a lot of time in the outdoors, but sometimes, and I hope my dad never hears this podcast now that I'm going to say this, sometimes that meant we would drive up from Little Rock to, there's a place off Highway 65 at the river, the really tall bridge, I forget what that area is called, and we would camp there in July or August for 3 weeks. And as a child, that was awful.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about all these different experiences and how these, how you could really create an experience that exposes people to the outdoors and gets them thinking about it differently. And again, how to make it accessible.
Yep. Absolutely.
And in some ways it makes it, I guess, more accessible to even folks who have grown up outdoors, because it gives them a different view of how to experience the outdoors.
Absolutely. Our goal is, so I guess really a way to put it is that I just felt a passion for what I call micro adventures. And we're not trying to replace your once a year trip to Colorado. We're not trying to replace your once a year to the beach or to these bigger adventures that you fill your calendar with early on in your year planning, right? But what we're trying to say is that those in between, don't just fill them with Greenway runs or Greenway bike rides or your daily running routines or those kind of things. Like, have these micro adventures that you're doing every once in a while and seeing new places in our own backyard and that kind of stuff. So that's really the focus, is that you don't need to just be waiting for your next big adventure. Let's have some of these other smaller adventures that are super simple, super easy, super attainable in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Sure. You mentioned earlier that 37 North was born out of noticing a need here in the community for a service It didn't exist. So I'm going to speak to the entrepreneurs out here, or the folks who even have existing businesses, especially, out west in the Rockies, and the Appalachians out east, and ask you this question: what's missing? What other services have you noticed, or products and the such have you noticed that are missing here in the area that we should be attracting?
Yeah, I mean, it's Northwest Arkansas is just growing at such an incredibly rapid rate, and there's so many exciting aspects to that. I think that there is it's a really vibrant combination of these people that are moving in from really everywhere, with a community that is putting everything into the outdoor connection, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that has an incredible amount of plethora of opportunities to those interesting connections, right? I do think that, to me, what I want, I think if I would say, and I don't know if this is much as like giving an idea to an individual as a hope for our community as we continue to press forward into this outdoor rec, is that we're not only known as like one of the greatest places to come recreate in the outdoors, but we're one of the most accessible, and we're one of the most diverse and equal. And I think there's lots of ways that where else do you get to kind of almost create this from a whiteboard, right? I mean, that's what's happening here. And it doesn't happen like that in other places. It's really a much slower progression. And so I hope we as an organization, as a community, really, really 10 years from now, we're known as, that is the place to come for equality in the outdoors, and thinking about unbelievable amounts of not just demographics that have been left out, but demographic from race and gender and those kind of terms that are front and center right now and should be, but also from physical disabilities and mental disabilities. And we're using the outdoors to combat these societal issues. We're using these outdoors to be more equality for disabilities and that kind of stuff too. So that's just something that's on my mind, especially as our organization and just personally, and with hopes for our community.
That's great. Yeah, I think that's exactly what we're building toward. It's really neat to be here in the middle of the country in an area that I don't think most people have thought about, right? They think about the Rockies, they think about the Appalachians, but most people haven't, until I'll say pretty recently, known that people have heard about the Ozarks. Maybe not the best context even, but they didn't know that we really existed, and certainly didn't know Northwest Arkansas existed. Mm-hmm. And now the word's starting to get out. And you're right, people are moving here from absolutely everywhere. I think just from the short trip from the office to the studio here, I must have seen 10 different states represented by license plates.
Spring break, it's happening.
I'm amazed by it every single time. We're building a place with this diversity of people in every possible meaning of the word, but also in a place that's just about as diverse as possible for outdoor experiences. Unless you're doing something on snow or going to the ocean, it's here. And I don't know that there's anywhere else in the country.
Were you here this winter? We got a lot of snow.
Oh, well, yeah, you're right. We did get some snow this winter. Thank goodness we packed it all in from January until apparently a couple of days from now. And then maybe winter 3 will be out of the way, and we'll dive into to spring. Yeah, folks, we do get 9.2 inches of snow a year in Bentonville, so just enough to make you believe that you've reached winter, and the outdoors are still accessible almost 12 months out of the year, unless you like it cold. That's okay too. So if I wanted to start a business or had a business elsewhere, and I learned about this place here in Northwest Arkansas, in Bentonville and the Ozark Mountains, how should I be thinking about this place? Maybe my business operations are elsewhere and I'm looking to grow. How should I be thinking about Bentonville?
I'll speak directly to the outdoor rec. In my mind is I guess two components, and this I'll frankly just talk about 37 North Expeditions, is that our seasons to a lot of people might be like a distracting feature. You know, you got a lot of guide services that are very seasonal, right? They are solely focused on water sports, so they're only kind of during the summer months, or they're solely focused on skiing, so they're really only got a few months in the winter and stuff. We do it all, and there's not really anybody else that does, and at least extremely present that have been around for the amount of time that we have, and it's our greatest advantage, right? So we use this as an advantage, what some people might look as a disadvantage, is these seasons, you know, unbelievably rich falls to incredible water opportunities in the summer, to winters, like you said, that you could do some winter type activities. You get incredible amounts of eagles that come in and winterize here. You have an incredible amount of just hiking opportunities in the winter is the best time to hike. Biking to continue. So I guess what I'm getting at is seasons are not to be forgot about. They could be an advantage, and they are to us. And then again, like I said, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but to me, this connection of you get the largest employer in the world. I guess I probably should have somebody really understand. I probably don't 100% know that, but I'm pretty sure that I've heard that before.
It is.
Largest, okay, thank you. Connected in a community, again, is hyper-focused on the outdoors. So there's just a lot of focus in that. For us, we do a lot of these weekend kind of outings and stuff, but a lot of people might know we're going to serve probably around 700 to 800 kids in summer programming this summer.
Wow.
So we have an incredibly strong youth programming efforts. A lot of that is our own internal camps, but to be honest, way more of that is we partner with public school systems, private school systems, boys and girls clubs, groups, and all those kind of things. And then second, kind of what I just mentioned there, is our corporate outing arm of our company is very strong too, and everything from leadership in the outdoors to just simple days out of the office we got a couple organizations who are actually creating true wellness programs for them, right, with the focus on the outdoors. So that to me, I mean, it's a little bit roundabout way to answer your question, but you can't really detach yourself from the seasons in the outdoor recreation, and you also can't detach yourself from what's going on with the rest of the community here. That really is, it might be fair to say, unlike anywhere else in the country, or maybe even the world, with that combination of things going on at the same time. Yeah,
that's right. I mean, I have to admit, I got some chills up my spine, and the hair on the back of my neck really did stand up when you started talking about eagles and the four seasons and so on. But then I love how you brought it around to talk about Fortune 1 is here, and in towns right next door, there's 2 other Fortune 500 companies. There's vendors of these companies that are here. And then yet you have this feel of this, I'll describe it as somebody did the other day. They said, look around, we're a ski town, except there's no snow. There's bike racks on everybody's cars, right? And then with water sports and everything else that's happening around here, there isn't another place.
That's the exciting thing for us, is that we have, since the beginning, biking's been a part of what we've done, but it's a part, and we we have an unbelievable amount of paddling and stand-up paddle boarding, and different types of kayaking excursions, and I mean, really just year round we have something going on all the time. And then, like I said too, is just we are very excited about the next few years of this company. Digging past just that thing to do for fun. And a lot of people know us for that. Like, if you know of 37 North, you've been on an excursion, it's usually like, hey, that's what I could do on a Saturday or Sunday, and but we're really, with our youth and our corporate, there's a lot of issues with youth programming right now. Technology is taking over youth lives. There's certain groups that have filled those roles that are just not doing as good as they have 20, 30 years ago, right? And then on the corporate side too, I mean, if I hear one more person tell me a step counter is a wellness program, that's not how we as a community would define our corporate wellness, right? So let's connect that to the outdoors. So for us, we are just super excited about taking it. It's way more than just a day outside. We're going to try to help. How do we take the outdoors and solve mental health crisis? How do we solve physical health crisis? How do we solve issues that COVID has brought to us, that everybody's working remotely now, and we're losing bonding within teams and organizations, right? And how do we use the outdoors to solve issues of collaboration, leadership development, those kind of things? And that's where we are right now, present, and super excited about all we do in the corporate world and then also in the youth programming world.
Yeah, I love that you brought up health and wellness too. And, with everything that's happening here, that is yet another area where Bentonville is placing a stake. And I'll say that, people someday, a few decades from now, perhaps, when the evidence is available, may talk about Bentonville in the same way with respect to healthcare wellness as they do with retail today, because of our Fortune 1. And then we have this ability really to tie healthcare or health and wellness into the outdoors, and it's going to very much be a big part of that. So stand by out there. Yeah. Maybe we'll have a season of health and wellness coming as well. Yeah. Let's go back to entrepreneurs for a second. Yeah. If I were an aspiring recpreneur, if you will, what is the one thing you would tell me that I must do to be successful, or what's the best piece of advice you could give me?
That's hard. I mean, I think the best way for, probably the most important to me, is with how fast, especially this region is going, is that I think I found a lot of my success and my aspirations evolving based on just talking and networking with people. And I don't mean that partnerships are our greatest collaboration. I mean, there's so much happening here, and so many new people moving or recreating in this region anymore, that from my mind, it's creating those really cool collaborations. And that's where you're going to find a way to be a part of this community and kind of find your niche. I think that's incredibly important. And then I also think that, to me, something that's just front and mind of center of where I'm at is, I read a quote pretty recently that if you're not a technology company in 5 years, you're not going to be a company in 5 years. And that, I think, is constantly evolving and trying to understand how to embrace technology, even in the world of the outdoors, versus kind of just keep pushing it back. It's here. Mm-hmm. So I think that's another very interesting thing for any aspiring entrepreneurs. But, down from the nitty gritty aspect of anybody wanting to start a company, to me, if I would give any advice, it's hard, and you will just be knocked down so many times, no matter what industry you're in. There's undoubtedly going to be some times where you're thinking about quitting. And to me, I think it's, I listen to one of my favorite podcasts actually is How I Built This. It's relatively famous. I'm sure any entrepreneur has probably heard it in some capacity, but he always asks that question at the end, is like, how much luck and how much skill? And to me, I think that it's just, for at least in my world of entrepreneur, it's just perseverance. And to me, I don't think that's either luck or skill in a lot of ways. There's some aspects to that, but I think the companies that exist and the companies that make it are the ones that just kind of fight through and push through those battles and find a way to evolve and make it happen, because there is a lot of that, and I'm still in the middle of that fight, right? So yeah.
Been knocked down a few times in companies that I've started or helped start. It reminds me of a conversation, talking about perseverance. Reminds me of a conversation I had the other day with an aspiring entrepreneur who's trying to figure out what direction to take her business. And somebody directly questioned her passion around a part of her business, and it caused her to pivot. Thank goodness, because she realized she wasn't passionate about that direction, and she was able then to take her passion for art and layer it into the business. And I'll be interested to see where it goes. Yeah. So you won't get to perseverance if you don't have passion. That's my answer for entrepreneurs out there. So
I'd agree with that.
Perseverance every day of the week. If somebody wanted to reach out to you or learn more about 37 North, before I forget, how would they do that?
Well, we're a small business. You can reach out a million ways, and you always get me, right? That's the right entrepreneur attitude. Our website is very strong presence, and that's something that we've had a passion since the very beginning. Is that to convince Midwesterners to get into a 15-passenger van and go out into the woods with us? You got to have an incredible presence of professionalism. And not only that, but like really, really tell everybody what they're getting into. And so that translates way past just the data of the trail, right? That translates into we field calls all the time with people just asking questions. And so long answer to that. Our website and then our Facebook. Our Facebook has a lot of really good following, and we constantly are updating that thing. But so website, Facebook, my email address. You can always email me at explore@37northexpeditions.com, or phone number. Give us a call anytime. It's there on the website, and we'll answer any questions. We do a lot of that. Even if you're just looking for a DIY experience, we'd love to help you find a way to get outside.
Great. So what's next for 37 North?
Yeah, I think I alluded to that a little bit. I mean, we're already kind of doing some of that, but I think to me, my biggest focus on this company is that, 4 years ago, again, it's unbelievable how different this world, this region looks in 4 years when it comes to this. I mean, I was having conversations with groups about what is a permit to get out into these public lands. I mean, literally, like kind of spearheading those efforts. There was no thoughts of. I was having to educate people what a guiding service was, and now we're at. Okay, that's very common knowledge, and that's an understandable type of. There's different options in that, but really for us, the biggest focus now is. I think we've done an amazing job that we are known as something to look at for a calendar to do something for fun. Right? Something to do in a social manner with friends, with family, whatever that looks like. But now we're hyper-focused on how do we use the outdoors, as I said earlier a little bit, how do we use the outdoors for a much deeper meaning, right? How do we use the outdoors to combat these societal issues, to combat unbelievable problems of depression and anxiety and loneliness, and then physical, connection to and dependency on technology, and the list goes on and on and on. But how do we really use the outdoors and to get into that kind of stuff? We're starting to break into that. Like I said, the corporate aspect of our company is just growing exponentially, and we're so incredibly excited about that and really creating partnerships with big organizations. The youth programming is help finding healthy ways that are way more connection focused versus just recreation focused. And by that, if I go on a tangent here a little bit, this idea of, to me, the missing part of youth programming for so long is just about teach your kid how to fish, teach your kid how to kayak, teach your kid how to, blah, blah, and the list goes on, how to bike. And for us, we are like, teach your kid how to love the outdoors, teach your kid how to feel comfortable in the outdoors and slow down and calm and be. So we lead with connection to self, connection to others, and connection to nature. And then after that, byproduct of that, you're going to learn how to fish. You're going to learn how to recreate. You're going to learn how to kayak, right? You're going to learn how to bike. Those are things that we're going to be doing. But and then again, another concept of just this deeper use of the outdoors is just these big societal issues I talked about, and we're just incredibly excited about where that's headed with our company. Things like memberships, so that you can use us instead of, maybe the gym's not your thing. Maybe the yoga studio is not really where you find your ability to get a workout in. And so running groups or bike groups aren't your thing. And so again, just always finding ways to greater connect with our clientele and help people get outside more often. And then even more importantly, in a way, is to really solve these mental and physical problems that we are having as a society, and trying to play a role in that world. Yeah.
I love it. I mean, this is how you really change people's lives and change the world. Can't really get much better than that. What should I have asked you that I didn't?
Oh, man. That's really turning the question literally on its head, huh? I get a lot of people ask me, what does 37 North mean? It is the latitude of the Ozarks. It's kind of that center from the north to the south of what's considered the Ozarks region. It's that 37 North latitude. I think that's one thing. And then, because another question I get quite a bit is just, we didn't really talk about our team at all. And I mean, so it's incredible. When I started this organization, and my wife and I started it 4 years ago now, I mean, we were doing everything, right? We, putting things on the website, to creating the branding, to fielding the calls, to leading every single trip. If you came on a trip the first 6 months, it was with me, I promise. There was not anybody else. But I don't even lead a whole lot anymore, which is awesome, because honestly, I got about 10 people that work for us, that are guide for us, that I would put on trips before myself. And that's so in my mind, what I always say is the diversity is not just in the place you go when you come on a trip with us, is that it's the person that's actually kind of leading you on that experience, right? Leading you through that day. And we got about 44 guides that work with us right now in some capacity. We have youth. We have about 4 people that work full time for us in some capacity, that anything from marketing to youth program developer to managers. And so that's just, I never imagined starting this company. It was only focused on client. But now all of a sudden, I mean, we got 44 people that are walking around our community. They're wilderness first aid certified because of us, right? And that have leave no trace certifications because they've worked or work for us, right? And so that's, being able to, 4 years ago, if you're like, I could make some extra cash on the weekends by leading some people into the outdoors and doing the stuff I love, that wouldn't have been a thing here. And so I'm very, very happy with our role in not only offering things for clients, but also for community members in that aspect too, to showcase what they do great and what they love and their passions. And so I think that's the team and the where we've grown outside of just for clients is a pretty cool aspect to the organization. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. Okay, I'm going to throw one at you straight out of left field.
All right.
Unrelated to any of this. And you've probably heard this question before, but maybe not with a twist on the end of it. If you could pick a superpower, but you had to have a limitation to the superpower, what would it be? And here's an example. My superpower would be that if I was watching a football game, I could pick up my remote and press a button and it would transport me into the football game. But my limitation, and thank goodness I could live with it, would only be Arkansas Razorback football games. What would yours be?
Oh, man. Well, I don't like limitations. Limitations are not real, right? Are they?
Right.
I think I'm addicted to traveling. I've loved it. It's just everything that moves me. I think before this whole concept of like the service economy and that kind of concept of, hey, but millennials don't really care about goods anymore. They just care about experiences. I've been like that for a long time. So I think I would probably be able to just teleport myself anywhere immediately. And I guess if I had to have a limitation, I would be okay with if it couldn't go outside the United States. There's a lot to see here that I haven't got to quite see yet. Even though I have been to 49 of 50 states, I've prided myself on being able to see a lot of places, but I guess it would be okay if it was only within the U.S. Yeah.
Not a terrible limitation.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah.
So thank you to our viewers. I hope you'll come back, enjoy this I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Danny as much as I did. Hope you'll come back and learn more about the businesses here in Bentonville and our people, and about Bentonville, a place where you can get more of what you want and less of what you don't. Come back next week. Thanks.